It is 1:30 a.m. and I should be asleep, but instead I'm sitting here recording this because if I'm being real with you, my mind will not shut up tonight. Hi, I am Khandie, and this is a very unusual episode of The Loud Lens where I'm probably not going to be very loud because it is literally 1:30 a.m. in the morning and I was in London all day, so I don't know why I'm not tired. This is the part of being a photographer that no one talks about, the nights where you're so damn tired but your brain is running laps, the what ifs, the am I good enough, the stress of looking at an empty inbox, I'm wondering if you're going to get booked by clients next month or the month before, or why is that client not paying. I've had these nights more times than I can count, and if you're listening to this, I'm guessing you have too. So I'm not going to sleep. You're not going to sleep, although I wish we could. I just might as well tell you the truth. And no filters, no sugarcoating, but I am very tired. So in a real high-low discussion about being a self-employed photographer, because I was actually doom scrolling on TikTok, and that's where I kind of saw the idea for this. I thought, do you know what? I need to talk about it. So if you're ever feeling lost, burnt out, or on the edge of quitting, this episode is most definitely for you. So I want to talk about first the money struggle. I know I'm very quiet, but that's because it is quite literally really early in the morning. So let's start with what most of us worry about at night, money. And in this day where we are constantly being bombarded with the news that tells us that everything's going up and you need to fix your rates or for your gas, electric, whatever it is, and people are not buying, and we in the back of our head we hear people, especially me, going, photography's a luxury, and you are so aware people are not buying luxuries. Being a photographer is not just about taking pretty pictures, it's about running a business. And if you haven't figured that part out, I'll be brutally honest, you're gonna be screwed. It doesn't matter how many pretty pictures you take, mate. If you ain't running this as a proper business, it is gonna be difficult. You need to know so much. Now, I've done loads of episodes on this, but we're going to talk about the money struggle particularly. And people feel really uncomfortable talking about money. I think in a society where it's almost like a dirty thing, and actually what's happened is we as a society almost don't, we know money exists, and we know that we always want more, it seems to be, but no one's willing to talk about money, and then when we do, it's kind of done in hushed tones, which is ironic because this is quite hushed because it is literally really early, as I've said. I've had months where I've made more than I ever thought was possible. Until then, I made more than another month. But I've had months where I've been one invoice away from selling my camera equipment or selling at least a lens. Okay. In fact, when about 4 years ago, so it was just after we came out of the beloved C19 and work was not picking back up, and I was like, oh, because everyone was like just needing to get out and no one wanted to be trapped inside, I did sell a lens, and I sold it astronomically cheaply just because I was so worried I wasn't going to make money to make my bills. Now, I've always had my savings, but I know I can't touch my tax account. I was so worried, and I remember putting it on sale. I even think it was stupidly put on Facebook Marketplace of all the places. I didn't even, go to MPB because I knew, you couldn't get screwed over on social media selling, but I did it because I was so worried. As it so happened, like no sooner had I packed it off and sent it off to this next person, I actually got 2 client bookings. It was annoying. And here's the thing, the reality of being self-employed is a roller coaster, and if you're not ready for that, it will break you. I have been self-employed in one means or another since I left the military many years ago, and I have always found there are really, really tough months. So for me personally, sort of around October to February are very much the quiet months. Very much the quiet months. October, it's not as quiet, but it's starting to get a little bit more quiet. And I don't care how many Christmas minis you put out there, it is quite, and particularly I've noticed December is getting quieter for like regular Joe clients. Um, I think that's because as the financial climate's, looming, people are concerned, particularly here in the UK, well, I would probably say the world over, though I'm assuming most of you from the UK. If you're not from the UK, I'd love to know where you're listening from. And it would be wrong if I didn't acknowledge that there were times when I sat here and I was like, jeez. And I remember putting my Christmas minis up and thinking, why aren't they selling? Why are they selling? And I kept changing it until they sold out. But I will tell you, there is an art to selling Christmas minis. I've done a video on my YouTube if you're interested in looking at it. I'll probably do an up-to-date one soon, but I want to talk to you about mistakes I've made because I don't like the idea that we're not admitting these mistakes. We're not talking to people about these. The first mistake that everybody makes and I made was underpricing yourself. And you think cheap prices will get you more bookings. In fact, all it did was get me nightmare clients. And I know I shouldn't slate clients, but it's just one of those things, not hundreds of them, but I remember one in particular really broke me. It was really, really early on in my career. I was second shooting for a wedding. someone at the wedding really liked how I was and said, could you do a portrait session for this family, for our family? I did. I literally took, I think it was £60 for an hour photo shoot and all the images. I know you're all going to laugh at me, but I was very young and naive back then. And I remember I was shooting on a Nikon D90, which still works this day, by the way. I shot a front cover on it not too long after I did this session. So, and this client was just not happy with everything I did. I mean, I actually dug these photos out. I managed to find one, find the folder with them on online somewhere. I have since hidden it. I don't think they're that bad. I mean, they're not my standard now. They're definitely not, but they're not that bad. But she was telling me how I made her look ugly and I made it, and I literally was crying. In the end, I paid a retoucher an extraordinary amount of money to go do it, and I made a loss. I think I remember a loss of £200 after I paid for everything out. And do you know what's really funny? She still uses those pictures. Like, honestly, she still uses those pictures even to this day. I don't know, it's mad, right? One of the other things I started on really early on was not having this safety net, and the safety net, a financial safety net. I thought next month will be better. Sometimes it wasn't. I would sit there and I think, oh, it's okay. I wouldn't think about having some savings. I wouldn't think about it. And you know what? This is a lesson I learned really early on in my self-employment journey. You've got to have a safety net there. You need money saved, tucked away that will pay your bills for a couple of months. All these people, I mean, I don't know how you guys are doing it. Like, literally, I know people, I saw this girl on TikTok who literally said, I've got no money, I've just got a camera, I've quit my job today, I've got no money, but I'm gonna make my rent. And I was like, I love that tenacity, but the part of me was going, oh my God, my darling, what happens if you don't? And I don't want to be that pessimistic person. What happens if you don't? What happens if you don't? And it's just you, for your own, like seriously, for your own mental health, get a financial safety net, have some money squirreled away. There is also no harm in being a full-time photographer with a little side hustle, working somewhere else on the quiet, right? You know, just have some money that can at least pay some of the bills. I don't think, because it's still possible to be full-time and have a job outside of this. Sounds really weird, but do you know what I mean? The other thing I really struggled with was, I thought if I bought all the gear, it would get me a client. Or if I had this, I remember I bought the 135 Nikon. What was the lens? It was 135. I can't remember what F number it was. And I thought, this is the lens, because I'd been looking on this Facebook group and there was all these people doing these dreamy backgrounds, you know, the ones that are really smoothed out. And everyone kept saying I was shooting on the 135 and this is what you need and this is what you needed. And I was like, oh yeah, I gotta get it. And I remember getting it and I hated shooting on it. Absolutely hated shooting on it. So I never used it and I'd wasted all this money. And I was like, for God's sake. And the amount of money I'd spent on this lens, I thought, what if I put that into an advert? So I spent a lot of money on the lens. I ended up selling that lens for a significant loss because obviously I'd used it. I couldn't just return it. And I used most of that money towards marketing and a little education course on marketing, which wasn't to do with photography. And I remember the first marketing bit I put out, it was an advert for my headshots, sold out. The first time it's on, and I thought I would have got here a lot quicker if I had not bought that gear, if I had not gone, hey, let's buy this camera equipment, this is what I need to do, this would make me a better photographer. Honestly, they call it gear acquisition syndrome. Like, you think like you need to have all this gear to do well, and you really don't. And I think the more we think about this, and this is me, I'm so tired. But I can't sleep because I sat here and I was scrolling on TikTok. You know, like, you should never do that if you can't sleep, by the way. You should never scroll on social media, but I did. And I was seeing all these people and I was just like, so many of you, I love that you're getting into photography, but there was all these people like, oh my God, like, I once shot this and now I'm a multi-millionaire or whatever. And I was like, nah, I want to be honest with you guys. So the truth is, if you don't take your pricing seriously, no one else will. You're not marketing yourself properly. You're going to stay invisible. You're essentially, you know, you can post all the pretty pictures you want, but you kind of have to know, one, how to turn those pretty pictures into a viable business. And that isn't a case of, oh, they took a picture and now they're going to do a 50 quid headshot with me. Well, your camera is valued at this. It has to do appreciation value. So you need to make sure you know you have money left over to buy another one, and your software that you use and your hosting software and your galleries, and there's so much that goes into it. Yes, there's another YouTube channel on this YouTube video, that I could have done on this, and I have done a few. So go help yourself if you're wanting to look at that. But I don't want you to be sat there like so many people and wondering, I ain't making money, but I'm working all this time. If you're working that hard and there's no money left over, I think your prices might be wrong. Now, we know this one, and I definitely lately have been feeling it a little bit. And I think that's off the back of the high of speaking at the photo and video show, and that's imposter syndrome and self doubt. I it's inevitable. You do this amazing thing like speaking at the photo show, and I mean, I signed autographs. That's bizarre to me. Sorry, it sounds really egotistical, but let's be honest. And I sat there and I was like, oh my God, who am I? Literally, who am I? And I got jobs and brands wanted to meet me and things like, honestly, if I could only tell you, I will soon tell you what's going on. I hope you'd be proud of me. But after that, I had this sort of crash back down to reality when I came off that high. And I do think it was like exhibition flu, you're so tired. It's a bit like tattoo flu. You have the high of having it done, and then the next couple of days you're like really drained. I was exhausted, and I went home and I sat there and I was like, oh, this is me. And don't get me wrong, inquiries have been rolling in and people were keen to book with me, but I became acutely aware when I looked around, there was all these big names talking. Was I meant to be there? Was it a fake booking? Did they just take a chance? Even though I spoke last year, and and I was like, I don't know where this came from. So I don't care how talented you are. Every photographer I know has had that moment of, should I quit? Should I be here? Am I good enough? We see other photographers booking clients that we want, or going viral, or selling out their workshops, and we start thinking, why am I even trying? Why? You see people being flown around the world to do these campaigns and to speak and everything, and you go, why is it not me? Why am I not there? I've been there. I've set up my own work. And for this is trash, no one's ever going to book me again. This is late night rambling, isn't it? But the crazy thing is, I was wrong. That imposter syndrome is just an absolutely little bastard. It's a little bastard, right? It convinces you you're failing even when you are so obviously not. So obviously not. And that's because, I swear down, somewhere in our society, in our human existence, we are always expecting the shit on our shoe. I swear. We're happily walking along, we're having our best day, but somehow there must be a proverbial shit on our shoe that that needs to happen, because it can't be this good all the time, and we can't be this deserving. And I think that's because we also aren't allowed to hype ourselves up. We're not allowed to be proud of ourselves. And I don't know. I don't know. Your work doesn't have to be the best in the world, but it just has to be good enough for your clients. That's something, if your people are booking you, your work is good, okay? You need to stop comparing yourself to people who've been in the game for 10 years, or there are people who will have a meteoric rise to the top. They really will, because that's what happens. You have it with people who do every line of work, creative or otherwise. All through the sporting history, there's been the great unknown contender who's managed to set a new world record, or look at this, they're amazing. You've heard the commentators. It happens in photography, and you know what? That doesn't stop everyone else who goes on to win gold. Okay, it doesn't. So it's okay that we are in the running with everybody else. But as it is really early in the morning or really late at night, depending how you think about it, I want to talk about something that probably is one of the reasons why I'm up at the moment. And that's, I know I'm probably going to head to a burnout soon. If you've watched my stories, you'll notice that I've been absolutely crazy. I've been doing loads of things. Like, I'm in the process of just renovating parts of the studio. I've hinted that I'm writing my second book. I'm also doing a lot of work. I'm doing seminars, and I'm not sleeping, which is a really bad recipe. I'm sure once I've done this, I kind of figured that if I would do this podcast now, I would get it all off my chest and then I could go back to sleep. And I think this works for me. I used to write it all down, but I'm too lazy now, so it's going to turn into a podcast. So let's talk about client nightmares and burnout, because that is something that does kind of keep me awake at night. There has been times when I have said yes to every single inquiry and every single shoot, could you edit this for free? Can you do this? And I resented it. And what happened was, it ate away at my soul. And before I knew it, I was like going, is this really what I want to do? I love being a photographer. I'm passionate about it. I love it, I genuinely love it. And I was like, I don't love it today. I'm absolutely dreading turning on my computer to open Photoshop and edit this picture again. I don't want to look at my emails. I don't. And it becomes exhausting. And I think we as photographers who have been in this business even a short time have a duty to tell you guys, watch out for signs of burnout. You will start resenting your clients, even the good ones. You will dread picking up your camera. You will be exhausted, but you can't get a break because you need the money. And you're in this perpetual cycle of, I need to pay the bills, but I don't want to do the work, so I'll do any work that comes in. Oh, wait, now I'm overtired, but I need to sleep, but I can't sleep. I need to pay the bills. I need to do the work. I need to get the money. And you go around in this huge circle. Burnout is not a badge of honor. And I mean this, it is not a medal. You should not be like, oh my God, I got burnout. This is what I need to do. No. Working for yourself is sometimes working yourself into the ground, and that is never okay. It doesn't mean you're grinding. You know, this whole thing where people go, yeah, I'm just hustling, I'm grinding away. No, you're self-sabotaging. If you do not set your boundaries, clients will take everything from you and then some more. You will allow yourself to be leached off of by certain things. And it's not just clients who are regular Joe clients. It could be businesses that you work for. It could be, God, actually, you know what? Sometimes just mates who will ask for free photo shoots. Sometimes you have to say, no, I'm tired. No, learn to say no before you hate the thing that you love the most. I have one friend in the past, although we're kind of friends still now, who would always ask that I bring my camera every event we went to. So if we went shopping, she wanted me to bring my camera. If we went to get facial, she wanted me to bring a camera. I remember going to her birthday party, she got annoyed at me because I didn't bring my camera, because she thought because I was a great photographer, which is, it is nice, that I would instantly want to photograph everything I did, and then she would get these immaculate images, and somehow her being in these images would get me some work. And it was all a very nice way of saying it, but essentially she wanted a free photographer, and she ended up being quite the influencer, and she still is. And we chat. We're not completely out of contact with one another, but I became exhausted because I knew as much as I like hanging out with her, I was also going to have to work. And what was really sad is that when it came to her birthday a couple of years ago, I was looking through, where you put it on Facebook, the pictures of you all together. I couldn't find any picture I was in, but I found hundreds that I had taken. Remember to exist in your universe. Honestly, I remember thinking at the time when I was like, I don't have any pictures to show of our friendship because I'm the one always taking them. Enjoy the moments, okay? Exist in the moments when you're not the photographer, and set that boundary. Set that boundary. I have a joke with one of my best friends, that we have a folder. It's on Dropbox, that we call it my missing person photo. She has one as well. We have this photo, we upload it to the folder every couple of months, or whenever we get a new one that we like. And it's always a comedy one, okay? And it's me and her, or me doing something with her, or her, she's done one where we're at a party somewhere. And these are the photos that we put up because we want to remember these moments. And it's not like, it's not a professional photo. It's not anything. It's me enjoying the moment, and it's become like a running joke for us. And now when I look at my friendship circle, and their birthdays come up, it says on Facebook because I'm shit at remembering. The photos that come up are me in the photos. Okay, I've realised that just because I'm out, I don't need to have a camera with me. It's 100% okay to not have a camera. And in fact, I just did a reel on my Instagram about this, where a guy sort of took the mickey out of me because he was working at an event and I wasn't chosen. And I remember, I wasn't working. And I had said to him, yeah, because I'm allowed a day off. And he went, and do you know what really annoyed me is I knew this guy wasn't getting paid and he was here working. I was like, nah, I want to enjoy myself. I don't want to be working to the point. Imagine constantly working for free, meaning no one values you. That's got to have a psychological thing on you. If people don't value what you do, psychologically, it's going to have some impact on you. So like I said, burnout is not a badge of honor. If you're not setting those boundaries, it will take so much from you. And I want you to know, as somebody at now, 150, sat here talking to you, is saying, you don't want to be sat up at this time worrying about this stuff. But I mean, I've used it to good use. I've done this episode, right? All right. So after all the doom and gloom is done, I do feel like I need to kind of bring it back, because it's not all doom and gloom. And I want to say, I wouldn't trade this world. Sorry, tired. I wouldn't trade this job for anything. Well, yeah, I wouldn't never not want to take a photograph, if that makes sense, because there's nothing like seeing like someone's face light up when they look at my pictures. And I'll be brutally honest, I love it when people write shit, like really nice comments on my Facebook, when they write really nice comments on my TikTok or my Instagram. You can call it what you want. Maybe I'm dopamine chasing, but I do love it. And I would be absolutely wrong if I said to you I didn't love it, because I do love it. It gives me a buzz. I mean, knowing that I know, like, loosely call it art because someone wants to tell me photography isn't art, and that stung a bit because it's definitely my presentation of the world and the subject matter in front of me. I'm not painting, but I am using a camera and lighting, I think, to create. But anyway, that's a whole nother podcast. Clearly, that's brought me some inner trauma. It means what I do means something to somebody. It means something to somebody. There's nothing like the freedom of running your own business and knowing that every penny you make is because of you. There isn't like a whole department running you. It's just you. There's no boss, no office politics. It's just you, your talent, and how you hustle, how you work, how well you work. And I sit there and I see some of these big jobs I've got coming in. Like I spoke about, I shot my shot, as they say. I DM'd a band that I really liked, and they were like, yes, Khandie, we want you to shoot us, and yes, Khandie, we're going to pay you. I My work has got me that. My tenacity has got me that. The point is the fact that they're paying me, even though I offered to shoot them. Do you know what I mean? So there's incredible highs. I have met some absolutely incredible people in photography, and not just clients, but other photographers who I can call friends. Like, I know I talk about him a lot. There's Gavin Hoey, who's just like, he doesn't need to spend time to talk to me, but we talk, we converse, and he imparts so much wisdom on me. I mean, there's so many. I could list a few off, like Tommy Reynolds and Noel. There's this beautiful still life photographer called Knowles. And just great. And I've worked alongside some great people, art directors, and I've met celebrities, man. Like, I've done work and been in places that I wouldn't normally get to go into. I have photographed some incredible things. I've been at film festivals photographing and seen some incredible moments. I've done fashion shoots with people, and I see the work. I remember the first time I saw my work on a billboard. It was only in my little town, but I remember driving past and going, "Holy crap, that's mine!" And I remember stopping and it was. Can I just say, it wasn't like a fashion piece. It was an advert for a company. And I remember going, "I shot that," and it was like, "Great, it's just an advert." Because it wasn't like a hugely dramatic piece, but it was really cool. And I remember the first time my work got in a magazine. And I went all the way to WH Smith, and I stood looking at this magazine going, "That's the one." And I didn't want to pick it up because I wanted to enjoy that moment. I was such a dork. And I remember seeing someone pick up the magazine. There was only 3 copies on the shelf at the time. And I was like, "Oh, there's only 2 left." And I watched them flick, and they didn't stop at my picture. They carried on. But I remember going to the till, and I was really young, and I said to the lady at the till, "I'm in this." And she looked at me like, "Sorry?" And I was like, "I'm in this, my work." And she was so hyped for me. And even now, I recently got published, I think it was Professional Photographer magazine. I got it at WH Smith, a different WH Smith now because I've moved. And I went up into the till, and I actually had bought 2 copies because a friend wanted me to grab a copy. And I was reading the article about me, the interview that was done, and saying, "Oh, I've got 2. Is that okay?" And she said, "Yeah, no worries." And she said, "Oh, is that your work?" I said, "Yeah." And she was, "Oh my God, that still buzz, that hype, that not only was my work in print in front of me, but this total stranger was hyping me." And she looked at the work, she said, "Oh, it's beautiful." And she gave me all these accolades. And I was like, "Thank you so much." She looked at me, she went, "You're welcome." I was like, "Yeah, that's really made me happy." Because it has. I would be wrong if I said those little hits of dopamine didn't mean a lot to me. They do. They really do, because I am so tired and emotional right now. The ability to create something that means something it will always give me a high. It will always make me happy. The fact that I get to get up every day and do something that I love, and I choose what I do, is important to me. And some days are absolutely hard, and some days I sit there and I've got editing and my eyes hurt, and and I've got to send all these I've got to do everything. I've got to do the social media, and I've got to do the marketing, and I've got to update the website, and I've got to wash the studio, I've got to sand the studio, I've got to paint the studio, because God forbid I'm an idiot and paint the floor white again. I've got to write seminars and all this, but I do this to be able to do this job, right? And yes, I could outsource, but I don't really outsource too much at the moment. Sorry, hang on 1 minute. Got a frog in my throat. But it is tough, but I love it, and it's exhausting. It'd be wrong. But you know what? I remember sitting in Norway, where I go a lot, and I just finished a photo shoot there, and I'm like, I'm in friggin' Norway photographing. I am here because of my work. Now you might go, "Oh, Norway's not that far," but every bit of money I'm spending is because I did a shoot somewhere else that is paid for this. every time a client's booked me is because I did a shoot somewhere else that they liked and now I'm here doing it. Do you know what I mean? Like we shouldn't dismiss the little wins. You get on a plane, you get on that plane because you can afford to pay for that plane, because guess what? You've done a job further down because someone liked what you did to be able to get on that plane. You're getting on a plane to do a shoot because someone liked the work that you did. You're going to be over there doing this shoot because someone liked this work. You know, I have to say, we got to celebrate the little wins. And so everyone's talking about these huge wins, but for me, the little wins are just as important. So it is, I am now getting tired and you're probably nodding off. And this is not the high energy I know that you're used to. So the truth about being a full-time photographer from someone who can't sleep tonight is it's not easy. It is not taking pretty pictures. It's legit running a business. It's opening the office essentially and being there, rain and shine. It's dealing with all the stress and dealing with the self-doubt and pushing through those hard times. And sometimes it's okay to say, I quit and I'm just going to go and have some time away and come back again. But you do what you do because you love it, right? And you have to learn from your mistakes. You can't keep repeating them. You have to set boundaries and keep going when it gets tough, because you can make this work. Sometimes we have to spend a little less time taking the pictures and a little more time learning how to run the business element. Don't underprice yourself. Your talent is worth so much more than the pennies that people are going to try and make you work for. Don't compare yourself. Your journey, as stupid as this sounds and as cliche, is your own. It doesn't need to be linear. It can take weaves and diversions, and sometimes it feels like you're going back on yourself and you're going to change direction, but it is your journey, and that is what makes you unique and stand apart. And if nothing else, it would be a great chapter in your autobiography. I want you to set boundaries though, because burnout is not a nice thing. So you are not up at 2 a.m. recording podcasts. You're going to keep going, because every high is going to be worth every single struggle. And right now, financially, I know it's scary times, okay? So if you need to go get a second job, side hustle, whatever these kids are calling it now, do it. I'm not going to shame you for that, because I think there's a lot of professional photographers online who are telling you, yeah, I'm a professional photographer, but ignore the fact that, they work at a coffee shop, or they do a bit of HR on the side, or they're a freelancer in another capacity, or whatever it is. So if this episode has hit home for you, I just want you to say, you know what, can I hear you? Drop me a message, be it Instagram or on here, and tell me what your biggest struggle is, because let's talk about it, because I need something else to keep me awake at 1 a.m. And I'm not joking. And I know it's stupidly cliche. You aren't alone. There's a load of us in the 1 a.m. club. So if you found this valuable, make sure you follow this podcast so I have a reason to get up at 1 a.m. again. And I'll give you more no BS business advice that, because this is what this is about. But until then, I am going to go to bed. I think I'm ready for bed. Anyway, take care of you, all right? Okay. Love yous. Moderately. I mean, you could be arseholes, but I'm still going to say I love you. But it's not a true love you. It's like a casual throwaway love you. It's a bit like a tabloid love you. It's barely registering. But you know what? I'm glad you're here.